Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free. Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free. Yeah.
Changes. So this is how this goes. Changes for me, changes for you. Resist all these changes because I'm stuck like glue. Stuck in my past, stuck in my now. To get me unstuck, it's time to ask how. Who am I today? Who will I be if I let all these changes keep altering me? So will I resist and add more to my strife, or let changes turn pages to the story of my life? Who here likes changes? Cool.
It depends.
Some changes. Some. So, you guys may have noticed some changes in my life over the past year. Spirit's hit me with a lot of stuff. I have created a lot of changes in my life. I always say it's an inside job, and it is. And since August or July of last year, everything possibly in my life that could change has changed and is still changing. Bless you. And not always do I embrace all those changes, because resist all these changes because I'm stuck like glue. I own things, but I also get stuck in stuff just like everybody else. You know, we talk a lot about Native American philosophies and different tribal philosophies. Owl is an omen in a lot of different cultures. That is an omen of death, and people are afraid of owl. And it's not an omen of death, it's an omen of change, which can be the death of something. It's the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. I've shared with you guys before that my name, Pasqualino, means Little Easter, or Little New Beginnings, which means change, constantly. Every day of my life is change. Well, I don't always like that. I don't always want the changes that are coming my way. Some of them I didn't necessarily sign up for. Some of them you haven't signed up for. But regardless of whether we signed up for them or not, we're going to be going through them. Now, we can resist the changes, and what happens when we resist them? What have you noticed in your own world when you've resisted a change? Anybody? Everybody?
Resist.
Worry. Stressful. Sickness. Happens anyway. Happens anyway.
Depression, frustration, anxiety.
Anxiety, frustration.
Long time to adjust.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And sometimes going with the flow of the changes is easier said than done. It's like, because I've identified myself as to who I think I am by virtue of things I've done in my life and who I think I am at any given moment. But if the next moment I'm somebody else, well then what the hell did I know? Meaning this, it's no secret, you guys know pretty much everything about me because I'm always going to tell you. That's one of the things I believe in this lifetime, is drop the dime on everything emotionally, because it's an inside job, and if I want to get closer to my God self, I have to drop the dime on, own, admit, whatever you want to call it, anything that will keep me from getting to that part of me. And my egocentric self, with all my worries and expectations of how my life is supposed to be, is going to be the block for me to do any kind of change, because I want to be who I think I am. Last month, well, say last year, last August, I was a married man and had a family, and I have a daughter, and then in August I found out that Stephanie wanted a different life. That changed whether I wanted to or not. So now I'm not a married man anymore, I'm a single dad. Well, I didn't want that change. I didn't want it at all, but life brought me that change. I've made jokes about the director in the sky, that it's all, we all create our own reality, but we're co-creating with whatever the God of your understanding is. And that sometimes there's going to be a script change, just sent in. And I had a serious script change last year. All kinds of changes to my plan, to my script, to the story of my life. I got to wear a bag on the side of me for 7 months and 8 days. Not that I was counting days. That was a lovely experience. Kind of crappy experience, but hey, I've only got a few more of these jokes left. But just like 20 years ago when I had TTP and it almost killed me, I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. It's like I was very happy to get this thing off of my side, and I'm all weird looking now and have weird scars and stuff, and I'm cool with that because this thing is off my side. But I wouldn't have taken away any of the experiences I got from it. It made me look inside, it made me look outside, it made me look at all the different things I've been sharing with you over the course of the 7 months and 8 days. 12 hours and 15 minutes. But again, I wasn't counting. But that was a change that I was looking forward to. But changes that come sometimes are dual because, boy, with the coyote-ness of my life, the way I set these changes up, for me, I had the reward of getting connected together with my wife leaving 3 days later, all on me at the same time. And it's like, it was emotional. A lot of it was emotional. I didn't know how to deal with it. I still am dealing with it. I still am in some of the emotions of it. Some of them I resist because I think I need to be strong for my daughter. And she's like, doesn't care. She'd rather see me cry for a minute than be a grumpy butt all day long because I'm on the edge. And I've been aware of that and trying to find the balance between being real in front of my kid and crying too much at all with my emotions in front of an 8-year-old to make sure that she knows she's secure, everything is fine in life, while I'm dealing with all the changes that I didn't even want to come in the first place. If somebody had said, hey Mark, would you like to lose your $50,000 a year career and get a shit bag on the side and lose your wife and family all within 6 months? Okay. I'll sign up for that. And apparently I did sign up for that. And some of it came with woe, and some of it came with paranoia, and some of it came with everybody's going to leave me now too. No one likes me. Everybody's going to leave me. Fear wants to jump in there and get. He had perfect opportunity. I was on heroin. I was on Dilaudid, whatever that is. I'm just finding out by some of my friends that knew stuff from the past what I was on. Apparently I'm naive to all this stuff too, so it took advantage of me too. Wanted to jump into my mind and go, oh, let's get him. Let's tell him that his life is actually over. There's no point in living. He adds nothing to the world. Just better off that he just died in the hospital. Yeah, thoughts, man, I'm gonna own them all. The shadow side, we did a talk on that, were you here? That shadow side. That's part of the shadow. Because it's using fear to get to me. It's using fear at my most vulnerable moment in the world to try to get me to stay stuck in my crap. Even though my crap was being removed from me. I probably have a better metabolism than half my friends and family now. That's how much I have healed, not getting into too many graphics, but I am healed inside. My metabolism is fine inside. I'm just now healing from surgery and scarring and stuff like that. But I'm way ahead of where the doctors thought I was supposed to be. And in my gabadosta, the Italian thick-headedness, I need to slow down because I'm doing better than I thought. But I forgot that it's still only been 3 weeks since I had my guts ripped open, and maybe I should do a little bit lighter duty, which I am, taking care of myself. But some of these things, that's a change for me in itself. That in itself is a change for me to not do something. For me to not go, well, this needs picked up, and bend over and pick it up when there's 5 people who will bend over and pick it up for me. And most of the time they're busting my chops. I'm like, well, I'm already here anyway. Because I'd already started, it's like, well, don't waste the bend. You understand that if you've ever had surgery or if you're old. You understand that. I think there should be no bending after 40. That's one change I would like to implement right now. But, and I told that joke to 2 old people in the store, and they loved it. They cracked up. They were ready to sign the petition. They've been bending over 40 for about 40 years. And they were quite frankly ready for that change as well. But sometimes I resist the changes because I've got an identity stuck to that person that I thought I was. And I've said this before, if I tell you who I am, all I really am going to be telling you is what I've done. If you want to know who I am, you got to be with me in the moment. Because in this moment, I'm changing as I speak. My body is still healing. I'm moving forward. By virtue of this talk alone, because I don't write my talks anymore, so that I'm trust in spirit that it's going to be here and it's going to be in the eyes of the people as I talk, more healing is happening. In the hurt that I've been going through. To be able to stand here and tell you, hey man, this stuff hurts, is empowering to me. To be able to tell you that I am in the biggest change in my life and it's freaking me out is empowering to me. To be able to tell you I'm scared shitless and get over my fear of cursing during a talk is empowering to me. Because I do like the Bill Cosby philosophy. He's been able to do routines for years without ever saying a curse word. But sometimes it just fits in perfectly. And sometimes it just embodies how you feel. And Spirit showed me the shitty aspects of how I felt for the last 7 months, 8 days, 12 hours, and 8 minutes. Not that I was counting. But something happened, actually, the conversation that Fred and I had. Because the biggest part of the change that's going to hurt my heart is when Rose goes up north. One of the things Fred and I were talking about is on my last day when I thought I was getting out at noon, I got out at 9:30 that night. Fred stayed for about 2 hours. We had a great conversation and a great little reminiscing of my Italian New York days as a kid, because I moved as a kid from New York. But he also shared with me, and I hope this is okay that I share, about when he went through a similar thing in his life and had to separate from his son. And that the thinking about it was a lot harder than being in it. And that so many times we have changes about to happen in our life. And the anticipation of that change is sometimes worse than the change itself. And I've been listening to those words, letting them vibrate in my body, because I heard the truth in them. Even though it sucks, and I want you to be wrong, but it's a true statement. And I have to honor that as I'm going through these changes, that every square there is going to be a lot scarier than the one I'm in. And then as soon as I get the courage, and how did that serenity prayer go again? Accept the things I cannot change, and the courage to change the things I can. There's the rub. Because sometimes I'll stay stuck in this one, thinking that I don't have the wisdom to know the difference of whether I even can muster up the courage for the next square. I gotta stand here first. I gotta own what's going on in my body. I gotta own what's going on in my heart. I gotta own it all. And stand here in my crap and just be in it before I can even have the courage to go to the next one. I have to just know that in this one, I'm still okay. I'm not less than or more than the moment before. I'm just what I am. And it's okay. And that the courage to change is going to come from within, but it's also going to come from the eyes that have looked at me throughout my life and looked at you throughout your life. And the wisdom to know the difference is where we go inside and pray and meditate. And just be. I have a lot on my plate, but no more than any other human. Our stories may be different, but that doesn't take away from any woe you've got going in your heart or the changes that are in front of you that may be scary. Sometimes our changes are exciting. Sometimes we're excited to change. But how many times are we so lazy we don't even want to change our clothes? We don't even want to change our sheets. Look at those things in our life. How much clutter is in your closet that you just haven't wanted to change out? All these aspects affect how I am in my day, in my world, in my markedness. Because the clutter in my closet is not going to clutter your mind, unless you come over to my house a lot and look at my closet and you've got OCD about closets. But it's going to affect me in my world. When I look at my kitchen table or my counter and I watch the days it's pristine and clean, and I feel good and clean in here. And then I watch that first piece of paper get set on it, and then that next piece of paper, and then that other thing, and then that envelope, and then that book, and I'll put it all away later. And the next thing I know, my whole counter is cluttered. That's not chaos. And I know I joke a lot about chaos with Scott. That's not chaos, that's clutter. Chaos has been made fun of too much sometimes. Because without chaos, the planets wouldn't be here. Without chaos, none of us would be here. Without chaos, the magic of magic wouldn't be, because there's no format to magic. It just bounces all over the place. Commotion and clutter stops us. Chaos creates. Commotion and clutter stop us in our tracks. So if I'm cluttered in here and I have a lot of changes to make, maybe it's time to just take one out at a time and put it on the table, or take one thing off the table at a time. Just by that small action alone, I've affected change. Little tiny baby steps is all it takes to affect change. Sometimes we need to just have a conversation with someone. Sometimes we need to go inside and be by ourselves. Sometimes we need to be in a big crowd and have so much input going at us that we can't even listen to the monkey mind chatter, because it's all crap chatter anyway, trying to stop you from changing. Can anybody here truly stop the next change in your life? What happens when you try? I mean, the only thing that remains constant in the universe is change. That's the only thing. The one thing in science, metascience, physics, metaphysics, across the board, is constant, and that is change itself. But sometimes I think these changes are going to take away from me instead of add to me. And that's the part where the courage comes back and the wisdom comes back. To know the difference between, is this change going to alter me, or am I going to be empowered and alter myself on purpose? It's like, I have to change now. I have to be a single dad. I didn't want to do that. It wasn't in my game plan. Again, there's a little element of what the hell did I know, because I didn't have the big script coming in. And there was a script change, and fine. And I can bitch about it all I want and say, I don't like this script, this is ridiculous, I want a rewrite, I want a new editor, I want a new writer, I want a new director. No? Okay. We're going with this? Alrighty. Can I do adjustments to how I am in this script? Sure, Mark. That is the one that is completely yours to write. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's up to me how I do this one? Cool. So if I'm still a little sad, is that okay? Sure. Yeah. If I become a grumpy ass, is that okay? No, maybe not so much. That means you usually need to cry more. A long time ago, and I probably have told this story, one of my associates with K Jewelers, they were locking up, it was about 1 in the morning, and I've been going through some weird stuff in my life, and the DMs and all bigwigs were on us, and they knew I was a little stressed out, but I was being goofy and joking. And they didn't know how to deal with me about that, because they knew what had just happened, because we all kind of got ringed out. And I'm like, they're like, man, you're just always happy. I'm like, not always happy. I said, most of the time I laugh. I laugh a lot. I said, and sometimes I cry. And sometimes I get real angry and grumpy, which usually means I need to cry. And then I laugh again. Well, I know that even in my own self, as much of a mush as I am, I've been resisting my own tears in this, because some of it has made me feel like I'm going to fall into too much vulnerability, too much vulnerability. And again, I know that's fear, just wanting to get in my face and say, no, don't feel. Be cold and aloof instead. Push everybody away, then you won't have to get hurt anymore. And I've heard the voices, man. I've heard the voice that every single person I believe has heard in their mind that says, just distance yourself. Just keep them up. Just keep them right here. Then you can't get hurt again. Don't let anybody in your heart. There's a good change to make, right? Should I make that change? Is that the change we should make when we get hurt? Or do we go further and forward and just keep loving? It's like all of these different things have happened in my life, and I will not let anybody tell me you're going through a bad time. I almost want to say the F word to them. Screw you. Buzz off. I'm not going through a bad time. I may be sad. You may have seen some things in my life that don't look too fun right now, but I will not judge them as bad. I will not do it. I will not allow people to tell me that I'm going through a bad time, because I believe that I've created this reality and I'm willing to truck forward in it. If you see me tripping, you're allowed to help me up. If you see your friend with a tear, you're allowed to offer a tissue. You're allowed to offer a hug. You're allowed to be there for each other. Just don't stop their changes. But don't walk away either because you're afraid to deal with them in their changes. Just be the same people that you're always being for each other. Just be there. Just be people in the world. And watch each other go through each other's changes. Sometimes they're for good. How are we supposed to know if we're not willing to go to that next square? I have to own this one. This sucked. Everything that just happened sucked. And there was a lot of fun in there too. I mean, there were some jokes. I did some pretty good crack bag jokes, man. I handed to myself there. I've got one bag left and on one little thing. So I was going to like keep it in case I wanted to embezzle stuff. Yeah, man. Like, well, who's going to look in there? I would almost challenge him to do it. Really? Go ahead. Whatever. Take me away, actually. It's worth it just because you wanted to look in there. I'm always the one to make fun of everything in my life, even when I know that some of it is sad, and I'm only looking at my phone because that clock's not working. When some of it is sad, and you don't want to be in the change that you're in, but you know that you have to because it's part of life. And it's like saying, okay, I breathed. I just changed again. I just did a whole molecular change of the air conversion, and let's talk science and all the things that just happened from an inhale and an exhale. All the changes that just transpired just from one. And then all the changes that are happening in my body when I switch a thought from a negative thought to a positive thought, and the pharmaceuticals that get released in my body that change because I'm now thinking positively as opposed to negatively. It's not all that airy-fairy about positive thinking all the time. It's about the truth, and if the truth is you're sad, then that's the positive statement. And in that true statement, your brain will produce the chemicals that will match you, and then health happens, and then healing happens. It's like I cried earlier this week, and they were salty as shit. And I've done this, I've shared with you about the study of the UCLA study on tears. The angry tears are salty. Tears of grief are just clear, and tears of joy are sweet and effervescent. Well, apparently I had some anger with this situation, that I'm not happy about it, that in my grief I'm pissed off that this all happened, and that was foreign to me, because I don't allow myself to be angry. Because I was afraid of my anger always. I was afraid somebody was going to get hurt. But it wasn't that kind of anger. I'm not angry at Stephanie. I'm angry at life a little bit, but I also accept the change. Well, when things get presented to you in life that you're mad about, you're hurt about, you're allowed to scream and cry about it. Not all day. You're not going to get anything done. I don't know if you have enough water. I mean, I got my new Bubba cup and everything. It's got 22 ounces in it. My goal is to drink 5 of these a day so I stay hydrated. So I have enough tears to cry out. Because if I don't hydrate myself when it is time to cry, there's not going to be anything there to cleanse. But if I cry too much, I'm going to get stuck in my day. And crying too much there's not really a time limit on it. You know it. You know, I have to teach this with Rose. I'm like, I have no problems with you expressing your emotions until the moment you're manipulating with them now. Well, sometimes we manipulate with our emotions as adults because we don't want you to change. I don't want you to change. I want you to stay exactly the way you are. So I'm going to manipulate with my emotions and make you feel guilty or cry or do something so that you will just be that same person you've always been for me. I did this in on that side. And we do that with our joy, with our tears, with our guilt. And then we keep each other locked in a square that we may not know is beating the hell out of them in their own life. So we need to let other people change as well. Quit keeping people cast in a mold that you think they are. Don't do it to me. You'll get the grumpiest part of me. And I'll probably apologize within seconds, but it's a knee-jerk reaction for me. If somebody wants to hold, like, if you want to hold me to the woe of yesterday, today, well, you just made me pick up all that woe that I dropped. If you do that my whole life, I'm like, oh my God, you know how much crap I've dropped? You're gonna make me pick that all back up? Don't be my friend then, okay? If that's what friends look like, then I'll pass. Because I can't deal with picking everything back up that I've already changed. Some of it wants to creep in there. Again, I always talk about Ram Dass lovingly because some of the things he said have really struck a chord in my heart. But he's made, it's not going to be an exact quote, but if you think your neuroses are going to go away completely, he's like, don't think that, because it's not true. They will come by to visit at any point in your life, and our job is to invite them in for tea. And to just let them come in, sit at the table, and enjoy them. And maybe reminisce about how they used to run our lives. Oh, I remember when I let you run my life all the time, and I never let any changes happen because you were there always telling me how I was not going to be able to do it, or how I wasn't good enough, or how no one was going to love me. Those voices may not be killed, they can be healed though. And every once in a while they're going to come up and go, no one loves you, and you're going to go, okay, here, sit down, have some juice. They just need to be loved as well and nurtured and hugged. That's that inside job, that orchestra, that audience of people, of selves that I've always talked about putting up on the stage and listening to them. Well, every once in a while, those voices are going to want to talk again and go, is this still true? And you can go, no. We found out the truth of that a long time ago. You're loved. You're wonderful. People want to be around you. That was just fear trying to keep you separate from other people. And now as you're going through this change or transition, fear wants to jump in the middle and stop you in your tracks. Because that's its job to do. And what better time to do it than when you're in the most vulnerable position of change or changing. Why do we put screens like that up when people are it's a changing room? They go behind the screen, they take off their clothes, and they put their other clothes on, and they come back out. Now, our community may be a little bit more open, and I know there's a few people in here that have been in nudist community, and they really don't have any problems with that kind of vulnerability. But it's the same thing. Most of us have this basic human modesty where we want to change in private, and then come back out and show you how beautiful I am now since I've changed. And I'm saying, I challenge you to change in front of each other. Maybe not your clothes, and whatever, because actors and actresses do it, not a problem. It's not a sexual thing, and they know it. Nobody's in the dressing room thinking about, ooh. They're waiting for their next cue. They're waiting for makeup. Half the time they're helping each other with their costumes and stuff. Their bodies they don't care about it. And I've been in theaters before, in high school and stuff, and even in high school, as insecure as we all were about looks and stuff like that, for some reason, the drama club just didn't seem to have those worries because we were all a team, we were all putting on a play, we were all putting on a show, we were all in it together. If I messed up, I messed it up for you as well. So we're just trying to change into the next costume for the next scene. And sometimes we even had our friends help us with our costume change. Okay, so we're in the drama of life, we're in the stage of life. Let's not get as embarrassed about our costumes. when we have to change. And sometimes you're going to see me buck ass and you get in the middle of my costume change. If it bothers your eyes, look away or help me with the change. If we can do that for each other, all of our changes would be a lot more pleasant. And sometimes they're going to be yucky. But if you can stand there with each other during the yucky changes too, then a homotalk and you're moving forward. All my relations. So it is. That's the idea of this. That is so that we're changing all together. You know, that again, Ohana means family. And family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. That's the wisdom of Lilo, from Lilo and Stitch. I will live with this wisdom for the rest of my life. You know, something happened when Steph left, and I noticed we had, you know, I'm still moving in, so to speak, still hanging decorations in my house. And there's this one that was on a bookshelf, but not hung up. And it was one that my stepmom, Lisa's mom, gave me and said, "Families are forever." And I read it and I started crying. But then something shifted. So we're still a family. Steph, Rose, and I are still a family. Without giving you every single detail of Steph and I's relationship and why we went away, that aspect didn't change. Families are forever. I hung it on the wall because it's a true statement and it will remain true. And as we as a pod family come together, we may go separate ways here and there. Fred's in New York, back in New York, but he's still part of this family. And as people have come and gone, they're still part of this family. And that's what we're trying to create here more and more and more. That's what Scott's wanting to create with the summer solstice. There's a family bigger than we can even think of to get all of these people around here to change so that we can be one heart, one mind, one soul, together. A homotalk house. Thank you.
When heaven seems so far away, and dreams are just a memory. Without the dark, the light won't show. Remember that you're not alone. When you watch the world just turn away and break the promises it made. When love is all too hard to hold, just take a breath and let it go. Just keep breathing, breathing, breathing. Just keep breathing, breathing, breathing. Easy enough? Whoa, just keep breathing. Can you remember that? Will you sing with me next time?